In November 1978, 5-day-old Raymond Green vanished from his Atlanta home in a brazen abduction that stunned his family and baffled investigators. Raymond was born on November 1st, 1978, at Grady Memorial Hospital to 16-year-old Donna Green. While Donna watched her newborn through the nursery window, a woman named Lisa Morris approached her, claiming to be visiting a sister who had also given birth. Lisa, described as a black woman in her early 20s with light brown skin, a mole on her left cheek, and scars on her face, quickly ingratiated herself with Donna. She asked her a number of personal questions and visited her hospital room multiple times. When Donna and Raymond were discharged on November 3rd, Lisa requested a ride home. The driver first dropped Donna off at her apartment in southwest Atlanta, inadvertently revealing her address to Lisa. 3 days later, on November 6th, Lisa arrived uninvited at Donna's home. Donna, trusting the woman she'd met at the hospital, allowed her inside. After an hour, Donna left to shower, leaving Lisa with Raymond and Donna's brother Tony, who was also caring for his own infant son. When Donna returned, Lisa and Raymond were gone. According to sources, Tony had fallen asleep while taking care of his own child, leaving Lisa unattended with Raymond. A neighbor reported seeing Lisa carrying the baby into a brown vehicle driven by an unidentified man. Authorities later confirmed Lisa's identity was fabricated. No Lisa Morris, matching her description, existed in Atlanta, and her alleged sister at the hospital was a lie. The leading theory is that Raymond was abducted as part of an illegal adoption scheme. Investigators believe Lisa targeted Donna, a vulnerable teenage mother, with the intent to sell Raymond domestically or internationally. The meticulous planning, befriending Donna, learning her address, and executing the abduction suggests professional involvement. Notably, the Atlanta Police Department speculated Raymond may have been trafficked out of state, where adoption records could obscure his origins. Others speculate that Lisa was looking for a child to raise as her own, and that she targeted Donna because she believed the two of them looked fairly similar. Under this theory, given Raymond's age, she may have registered him as her own child by claiming she gave birth to him at home. If either of these theories are true, it's strongly believed that Raymond is still alive and is completely unaware of his true identity. Notably, this case faces some significant ongoing investigative challenges. Somehow, the Atlanta Police Department misplaced Raymond's original case file, forcing investigators to restart from scratch years later. It's unclear what evidence may have been lost from this initial case file. Further, no photographs of Raymond exist, only age-progressed sketches and the initial sketch of him as a baby. Similarly, the composite sketch of Lisa relies solely on Donna's memory. It's unclear to me why these sketches weren't verified with hospital staff. However, it's possible that no one remembered who Lisa was. After all, she wouldn't have had much reason to interact with hospital staff, and she likely would have just been assumed to be one of the numerous visitors who flood into maternity wards. Notably, Donna has continued to look for her son her entire life, and continues to do so at present. She believes the best chance of her case being solved will be him entering his DNA into a database voluntarily and finding out he gets a hit for a mom he never knew he had. Personally, I remain very optimistic that we're going to see this case solved in the coming years. All available evidence suggests that Raymond is almost certainly still alive. The well-orchestrated nature of the abduction, along with Lisa's apparent interest in the baby's background, points to a deliberate plan rather than a random crime. Further, there's other cases like this where individuals have stolen babies from teenage mothers under the disturbed idea that they're actually doing a favor for the child. Individuals who do this generally believe they're saving the child from a life of hardship, and thus would be unlikely to be the same sort of person who would dispatch the little one. Given that Raymond would now be in his mid-40s, it's entirely plausible that he has grown up unaware of his true identity. Moreover, similar cases have been resolved through DNA testing, often decades after the abduction took place. With modern genetic genealogy techniques and dedicated investigators, Donna Green's persistent hope of finding her son is far from unrealistic. Or maybe that's all wishful thinking on my part, not wanting to believe that someone would actually harm an innocent baby more than Lisa actually did. On October 8, 1976, 16-year-old Trenny Gibson vanished without a trace during a school field trip to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Trenny, a sophomore at Bearden High School in Knoxville, Tennessee, joined 38 classmates and horticulture teacher Wayne Dunlap for a field trip to the Smokies. The group planned to hike the Forney Ridge Trail to Andrews Bald, a grassy summit known for its panoramic views. The hike began around noon under chilly, rainy conditions. Trenny wore a blue blouse, striped sweater, jeans, and borrowed a plaid jacket from classmate Robert Simpson, who later reported she seemed uneasy about the trip. After reaching Andrews Bald, Trenny opted to return to the bus early while others lingered. Witnesses last saw her around 3 p.m. on a steep section of the trail near Klingman's Dome. One classmate recalled Trenny crouching to examine something off-trail before disappearing into dense undergrowth. By 3:40 p.m., her absence was noted, sparking immediate searches by classmates and park rangers. Despite deploying helicopters, scent dogs, and hundreds of volunteers, no physical evidence, not even a scrap of clothing, was ever found. The most plausible theory is that Trenny succumbed to the Smokies' harsh environment. The park spans over 800 square miles of rugged terrain, with dense forests, steep drop-offs, and unpredictable weather. On the day she vanished, temperatures hovered near 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and fog obscured visibility, complicating search efforts. Hypothermia or a fall could have claimed her life quickly, and the park's thick foliage might have concealed her remains. Notably, search dogs traced her scent to the Appalachian Trail and a roadside area, but storms washed away potential clues. Critics argue, however, that experienced searchers should have found some trace if she'd perished nearby, especially given the trail's popularity. Another theory suggests that she may have been abducted. This seems to me to be implausible, but not impossible. I note that there were at least 40 people around in the immediate vicinity, and as such I really have to question if a predator would have taken this opportunity to target Trenny. It just seems as though there were too many potential witnesses around for a predator to strike. That said, stranger things have happened. Others speculate that she may have succumbed to an animal attack. Black bears, coyotes, and bobcats inhabit the Smokies, and a fatal encounter is possible. However, park officials noted that attacks by these animals are extremely rare, and no blood or disturbed vegetation was found near Trenny's last location. Hey everyone, it's Jimmy reminding you to smash that like button and also subscribe. And yeah, you heard me, I said smash the like button just like a real YouTuber. Also, if you enjoy my consistent content output and want to keep supporting my work, please take a moment to share this video with 2 of your friends or family members. Nestled in the Tver region of western Russia lies Lake Brosno, a lake as rich in local lore as it is in water. Also, I have no idea what I was thinking when I wrote that line, and I thought about rewriting it as I was recording it, but it's too silly not to leave in. For centuries, tales have circulated about a formidable creature inhabiting its depths, a beast known as the Brosno dragon, or Brosnya in Russian. Described as a dragon-like entity, this cryptid has been the subject of numerous legends and eyewitness accounts, some dating back to the 13th century. One of the earliest and most notable legends tells of an encounter between the Brosno dragon and the Tatar-Mongol army in the 13th century. As the story goes, Batu Khan's forces paused at Lake Brosno to rest and allow their horses to drink. Suddenly, a massive creature emerged from the water, roaring fiercely and devouring both horses and soldiers. Terrified, the army retreated, and the city of Novgorod was spared from invasion. Throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, reports persisted of a giant creature surfacing in the evenings, only to submerge when approached. During World War II, locals even claimed that the beast swallowed a German airplane whole. Eyewitnesses have consistently described Brosnya as a serpentine figure, approximately 16 to 20 feet in length, with a fish-like or snake-like head and large eyes. Some accounts add that the creature possesses an enormous tail and iridescent scales, with a few even suggesting it emits a bioluminescent glow. In 1996, a group of tourists from Moscow reported seeing a dragon-like creature in the lake. Their 7-year-old son was the first to spot it, leading to an apparent photograph of the creature. And I say apparent photograph because despite sources mentioning that such a photograph exists, none of these sources actually include the picture itself. The following year, a news magazine organized an expedition to Lake Brosno to further investigate the creature. Participants included journalists and local officials who aimed to uncover the truth behind the legends. While they didn't encounter the creature firsthand, their investigations revealed that the lake's depth ranged between 120 to 160 feet. This was a new finding and revealed that the lake was much deeper than previously thought. This considerable depth, combined with the lake's ancient origins, led some to speculate that such a habitat could indeed harbor unknown phenomena. Skeptics have proposed various explanations for the Brosno dragon sightings. Some suggest that the creature might be a giant pike or a deformed beaver. And yes, you heard me right on that last part. Their suggestion is basically a giant mutant beaver, which seems like a hypothesis nearly as questionable as it being a dragon. Others hypothesize that natural phenomena could be responsible. For instance, hydrogen sulfide emissions from the lake's bottom might cause water to bubble, creating illusions reminiscent of a dragon's head. Alternatively, the presence of an underwater volcano could produce disturbances on the lake's surface, leading observers to interpret these as signs of a monstrous inhabitant. The combination of historical accounts, eyewitness testimonies, and the lake's mysterious characteristics continues to captivate the imagination of locals and cryptid enthusiasts alike. Dissociative fugue is a rare psychological phenomenon in which a person suddenly travels away from their usual surroundings with little or no recollection of their past life. Often, this condition appears alongside a profound sense of confusion or a feeling that the individual is disconnected from who they once were. In the late 19th century, psychiatrists and psychologists became increasingly interested in the various ways trauma or severe stress might cause the mind to fracture or split off experiences. One of the earliest documented cases that captured the public's attention was that of Ansel Bourne. In 1887, Ansel traveled from Rhode Island to Pennsylvania and opened a small shop under a different name, only to wake up one morning with no idea how he got there. His story was studied by pioneering psychologists, including William James, as evidence that a split in consciousness could occur under certain conditions. The term fugue comes from the Latin word for flight, reflecting how people experiencing this condition flee their usual circumstances. Early clinicians recognized that individuals in this state often embarked on unexpected journeys without understanding why. These travels were not ordinary trips or vacations. They were marked by confusion, amnesia for personal history, and the adoption of a new set of behaviors or an entirely new personality. Over time, interest in fugue states grew as more strange cases emerged, some lasting only hours, others persisting for weeks or longer. When the American Psychiatric Association first codified mental disorders in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, dissociative conditions were relatively small categories. In the DSM, published in 1952, and DSM-2, published in 1968, dissociative disorders were often lumped together with other, quote, hysterical conditions. By the time the DSM-3 came out in 1980, the diagnostic criteria had begun to evolve, and the term psychogenic fugue was recognized as a distinct entity. Later, the DSM-4 replaced the phrase psychogenic fugue with dissociative fugue, but still treated it as a standalone disorder. It wasn't until the DSM-5, published in 2013, that dissociative fugue became categorized as a specifier under the broader umbrella of dissociative amnesia, rather than a separate diagnosis. This shift reflected a deeper understanding that these fugue states are frequently intertwined with other dissociative symptoms, particularly difficulties in recalling autobiographical information. Thus, a person might be diagnosed with dissociative amnesia with dissociative fugue if their memory problems include sudden, unplanned travel away from home. But what causes these severe episodes? Dissociative fugues are often linked to severe stress, trauma, or intense emotional conflicts. People who develop fugues tend to have experienced major life stressors, such as personal loss, collapsing personal lives, war, or natural disasters. When the mind is pushed to its limit, it may attempt to protect itself by compartmentalizing painful experiences and fleeing entirely from the life in which the trauma occurred. Dissociative fugue, then, can be seen as an extreme coping mechanism, an unconscious effort to detach from an intolerable situation or memory. During a fugue state, an individual typically appears outwardly functional. They might hold down a new job, interact socially in unfamiliar settings, and carry on a seemingly normal routine, though it's often quite different from their usual lifestyle. The person may have no recollection of their past self, relationships, or personal history. Friends, family, and coworkers back home are left baffled as they discover that their loved one has vanished with no warning. The length of a fugue can vary drastically, from brief episodes that last just a few hours or days, to prolonged periods that span weeks, months, or even many years. Interestingly, many people who exit a fugue state experience a rather abrupt return to their original identity and memories. This can create a secondary wave of distress as they grapple with the idea that they lost time and possibly formed new relationships or engaged in activities they don't recognize. Notably, in some instances, people who have suffered from a dissociative fugue realize they preferred the lifestyle they were living during their fugue state and wish to return to it. In a number of these situations, individuals refuse to return back to their old lifestyle, leaving their friends and family shocked and disheartened. In the most extreme situations, the individual, having left the fugue state, chooses to adopt the identity they held during that period and continue living as that new person. Dissociative fugues are controversial by their very nature. One aspect of dissociative fugue that has drawn controversy is its rarity and apparent dramatic presentation. Some critics question whether it's overdiagnosed or even real in certain cases, suggesting that the striking nature of fugue states might lead to sensationalism. Over time, however, the clinical community has nearly universally accepted that dissociative disorders, while not fully understood, are both genuine and deeply distressing. While the controversy has largely been solved in the scientific community, the same can't be said for public perception. People who have undergone fugue states are often believed to be faking it by their loved ones, and in high-profile cases, by people on social media and in traditional media. Because fugues are so unusual, Many people aren't aware that such a condition exists until they encounter a high-profile case, whether in the news or through a fictional portrayal. While the mechanisms that lead to fugue states still aren't understood, I suspect greater understanding of the brain will lead to many answers in the near future. On May 12, 1986, 26-year-old Wanda Jean Mays vanished from her aunt and uncle's home near Guntersville Lake in Alabama, leaving behind a scene of unexplained chaos. Wanda, a secretary at Redstone Arsenal, spent the evening of May 11, 1986, dining with her parents in Guntersville. Her father later recalled she seemed cheerful, but noted she had recently struggled with a chemical imbalance linked to extreme dieting, which caused sporadic panic attacks. Instead of returning to her apartment, Wanda opted to stay overnight at her aunt and uncle's lakeside home. She retired to the guest room around 10:30 p.m., a decision her family found unusual, as she rarely stayed there. At 5 a.m. the next morning, her aunt and uncle discovered her room locked. After forcing entry, they found the Venetian glass window shattered from the inside, blood smeared on the frame, and the bed untouched. Wanda's purse, identification, and jewelry remained on the nightstand, but her torn, blood-stained nightgown lay on the dock outside. A nearby canoe, also bloodied, floated empty on the lake. The official ruling concluded Wanda fled during an extreme panic attack. Her brother, John Mays, corroborated the severity of her symptoms and described her episodes as intense. Quote, "She would just be terrified of everything." Investigators theorized she broke the window to escape, used the canoe to cross the lake, and later fell from a 150-foot cliff 2 miles away, where her remains were found in 2003. The FBI's DNA lab confirmed the identity of the skeletal remains in 2008, closing the case as accidental. Initial suspicions of foul play arose from the blood evidence and reports of a woman resembling Wanda seen with rough-looking men a day after her disappearance. However, no corroborating evidence linked these sightings to her case, and the lack of overt signs of struggle supported the accidental death theory. While forensic science provided closure, questions about her final hours persist. Did a panic attack truly drive her to the cliff's edge, or did other forces play a role? While there's rampant speculation online questioning whether Wanda's case was really an accidental death, in my view, the evidence is fairly clear that it was. Notably, any oddities or supposedly unexplained evidence can be explained by the fact that Wanda wasn't acting rationally at the time of the accident. That said, predators target those with known weaknesses, and those going through mental health concerns are often particularly vulnerable to predation. I think this case is a good reminder that sometimes there can be a lot of mysterious factors at play, but at the end of the day, the conclusion can be the simplest one.